Hello everyone and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at another Nolichucky jack from RoseCraft. You saw my last video and that was the Dapper jig bone. And now we've got the moss brown bone with the vintage jig bone. So just another jigging pattern that they've released. This is the third straight jigging style that they've offered. First we had the Beaver Creek Barlow with the barnboard style jigging. Beautiful little Beaver Creek Barlow there. And then we had the Nolichucky jack in the Dapper jig bone, which is more of a craggy style, more of a stag style looking jig pattern. And now we've got these longer grooves on this vintage jig bone, made to look, I guess, older style, but beautiful moss brown bone. And you'll remember that the first Nolichucky jack was introduced with this moss brown bone and the smooth bone. Now we have the jigged option here, and I gotta say these look really, really good. I really like the way they've made those long cavities there. And all of these are done by hand. All the different jigging that they've done at RoseCraft has been done by hand, and this is no exception. As you can see, the color transition here a little lighter as they haft it to the bolster. You see that thins there, and then, of course, deeper into the bone, the less dye there was. You can see a little bit of a color transition there. But a really nice looking sort of greenish color. They're saying it's moss brown bone, but in reality, it's more of a dark green, very natural looking green color. Get the stainless steel rosebud shield on there. Very well pinned. You can see in the grooves, they've filed those down. They are not proud, so nothing sticking up. Very well hafted here. Get that nice thread and pinch on the stainless steel bolsters. And they are integral, so they have the liner that runs the length, all one piece there, and then the spring in the middle. Of course, that's extremely well constructed. As you can see, the spring is almost difficult to see, depending on the angle of the light. It all just looks like one solid piece there. But on this side, the pins are much the same as the show side. Well ground down, and you're not feeling anything proud. Hafted around the edges there, rounded off really nicely. Now, out of the box, you might find those to be a little bit square. I think I've rolled the edge a little bit, give it a little more comfort. But I do that typically with a lot of my knives. Just give it a little more attention sometimes to the handles to make them just a touch more comfortable. You can see that's pretty even on the back there. And see how that's terminated very nicely. Got the centering of the blade. Nice straight termination on the spring. And the swedging on the spear point blade. Do have a half stop there, and these blades are stamped with the RoseCraft brand. Get the long pull here and the deep swedge. The good transition to that swedge from the long pull there. I think that looks lovely. Satin finish on the blade. Of course, the very, very versatile style spear point blade. Let's look at the edge here. Yeah, that looks really well done. There we go. We can see the angle of that grind there. See the other side. And these are very sharp. Nice tip on there for the pierce. Of course, for me, the point on the blade is extremely important. The way that I use my knives, or is using it to pierce through and then cut. Much of the work that I do with cardboard and that, it's always necessary to have a way to puncture the box. Here's the back side of the blade. We can see Andy's maker's mark there, along with D2 steel. And this is model number RCT011-VTG. That stands for Vintage Jig Bone. This is the 11th model. So, yeah, we're going back away into the catalog. I think they're up to like 26 or something like that now. So, yeah, they're doing really well with all these different traditional patterns. But this was a favorite. And the last one sold out. So, if you were looking for this Dapper Jig Bone, you may have a tough time finding this one. It's gone. So, I wouldn't wait around much longer to buy one of these. I know they're sold out at many places already. They were released on the 22nd. But I did look ahead of time to see that these are available at Knife Center. I believe there's about 15 of these left. So if you're interested in one of these, they aren't completely gone. You can still get a hold of one on Knife Center. Very well centered. Again, D2 steel on the blade. You get the half stop. It's a 3-inch blade. Just UK legal. There's some information floating around to say that these are over 3 inches. They aren't. They're right at 3 inches. 4-inch handle. So 7 inches overall length. Fantastic snap on the blade. The acoustics are fantastic. Love the way that sounds. And with that rolling of the edge there, it's even more comfortable in the hand. I just took some very light sandpaper and rolled the edges on both sides. That's all I've done. Feels fantastic. You can bring your finger up to that finger choil. A great match of the choil to the bolster there. I like that transition. And nice pull on this. I would say this one's maybe about a 6.5. Maybe a little heavier than that last one that we looked at. And again, the fit and finish on this is fantastic. You really do have a hell of a time trying to find the spring on this, where the liner's stopping and where the spring starts. Very clean inside there. Of course, the stop pin. That does kind of change the acoustics a bit. But, I just like the way that sounds. Again, very versatile blade. Spear point. Definitely, probably, what was I say? Probably top 3 for blade styles for me. I really like clip point. I like a lamb's foot, and I like a spear. But yeah, these are just so well constructed, and for $63.99, I think they're a heck of a value. I would have a hard time pointing you to a knife that was made as well for the same price. I think a lot of people still are a little, I don't know, how would you say it, butthurt about these made in China knives, thinking that that they aren't quality, but they certainly are. And it's a Chinese brand that I will proudly put my name behind, because I think that the build and the construction quality and the quality of the materials that you get here are fantastic. The D2 steel has been proven to have a great heat treat on it, and you can go to many a different reviewer who just absolutely lets the knives have it with these D2 steel blades, and they hold an edge for a long time. And when you need to sharpen it, they aren't that difficult to do. So it's a great blade steel because it can hold an edge, and it's relatively easy to sharpen. But RoseCraft blades, Nolichucky jack, and the new vintage jigged bone. Check it out at Knife Center. that's where you can find one. They're still available. Andy never had any stock at his website, so you don't need to try to go there to find them. The orders were so strong that he just sent them all to the dealers. Now, I've got this TSA sticker up here. I wanted to mention this very quickly. They also have, and I won't be reviewing this knife separately, so we'll just take a quick look at it now. But we also have the vintage jig bone in this Beaver Creek. But this is only available at TSA knives. So if you're wanting this material on a Barlow, this is a little sheep's foot blade here, you can go over to TSA knives. They still have these available. And these are exclusive to that website. So go check out Erin over there. Give her a shout and order one of those if you're interested in the Barlow. And I want to say those are $56, $57, something like that. So another great option if you're into the Beaver Creek Barlow. But again, that vintage jig bone looks fantastic on both of these knives. And that moss green bone coloring. But that's going to do it for my review, guys. Stick around for the slideshow. We will see you next time. Take care.